It's said that Alexander the Great, upon arriving in Gordium, encountered the legendary Gordian knot, an intricate knot said to be unloosable. It was prophesied that whoever unraveled it would rule all of Asia. Faced with this seemingly impossible challenge, Alexander drew his sword and sliced through the knot. The Gordian knot has come in the Western imagination to symbolize an unsolvable problem. And there is no problem larger or more tangled than the fabric of human society itself. Faced with it, many choose, like Alexander, to embrace sheer will and slice as best they can. Some, who are very lucky, one in 1,000 years or so, might succeed. For the rest of us, we puzzle, because getting to the whole truth is a Gordian knot. There are countless human limitations which inhibit our ability to authentically agree with one another. Most who slash away with their right hand only tangle further with their left. I hate the panicked and intense submission demanded by partisan culture, which insists that we simultaneously hack and weave. In my view, the presumption of agreement down to the jot and tittle of party and narrative-based politics dehumanizes individuality of expression, brought only by true freedom of thought. To me, each person has a unique face and voice. They are one of a kind, and it seems only natural that they should have a unique viewpoint as well, an expression of their individual soul. In recognition of that fact, I tend to be more moderate, and this is why I often think of people like J.J. McCullough, the likewise moderate and pleasant internet ambassador of Canada, very warmly. I really like JJ, and I share his distaste for the sensational, hyperbolic language so carelessly lobbed around the internet, which is why I'm shocked that he would so blatantly and knowingly lie to his audience. No, but in all seriousness, it's kind of funny. Despite both our attempts to embrace moderation, I ran across a video of his called Don't Be Like Jack, where, in service to our shared ideal, he stokes the very radicalism we oppose. We moderates ponder the knot, so to speak. While we may not be able to loosen it completely, we try to prevent it from tightening. That's how I see it. Remember the airmen who leaked classified documents about how the US had boots on the ground in Ukraine despite lying about it a while back? I'll let JJ explain.
Jack Teixeira was a kid who enrolled in the Massachusetts National Guard right after graduating from high school. He quickly got a job at an Air Force base where he had some sort of IT position that gave him access to a large number of very highly classified government documents. These were mostly documents relating to American intelligence that had been gathered overseas. And while Jack was doing his military job, he also was running a Discord server, a rather small Discord server, maybe only 30 or 20 people. They kind of imagined themselves to be sort of like edgy political people in some vague kind of way. They were into guns. Apparently there was a bit of a Christian thing going on as well. And they were like, you know, into like racist shit and stuff, like memes that were intentionally super offensive and all that. These are dumb kids, and they're like wallowing in some ways their own kind of ignorance. You know, there was a degree to which the community has been kind of identified as being like anti-war, but in the sense that like anti-war has now become this kind of catch-all term that is often used to describe basically anyone who kind of has a sort of broad assortment of sort of crankish conspiratorial views. You know, views that basically posit that all authority in the world is evil and engaged in some, you know, nefarious scheme to take away freedoms and oppress people and all that. QAnon type crap. We're just like, don't trust anyone, you know, all government is evil, all corporations are evil, they're all out to get you, you know, this kind of thing. And to the extent that Jack had any sort of coherent philosophy, it seems like that was his philosophy.
Jack was 21 years old. He was entrusted by the Air Force with his clearance and signed his NDA, which he then violated, not as a whistleblower, but on his Discord server. This was not some helpless kid. This was a fully grown man, and he must bear the responsibility for his breach of military laws and discipline. Portraying him as some wide-eyed child seems wrong to me. Servicemen much younger have been entrusted with much more. That said, I do agree with JJ that young, idealistic people are a menace to society. And I'm only part joking. I think as most people go through life, we get humbled again and again, and that teaches us to speak a little softer and bear with each other a little more patiently. I think that's a reason radicalism will always flourish amongst the young, and that's certainly why ideologies so desperately struggle with each other to snatch at their minds. But these idealistic young people also offer some benefits. Because they have nothing yet to lose, they often will offer a very honest mirror into society. They are reckless, and so they don't hesitate to say what they think is true. Not necessarily even because they are courageous, by the way, often because they don't even realize the implications of what they're saying. They've never untied a half hitch, so to them, the Gordian knot seems simple. But their perspective is a mirror, nonetheless, and one that is worth considering. And I would only ask, honestly, what is the mirror which Jack held? What does it say about our society beyond just that he was stupid? Okay, he was stupid. What else? Did the DoD lie about the extent to which they were involved in Ukraine? Are we being sufficiently skeptical of the powers that be?
What strikes me about this whole story is just, I don't know, it just seems like so pointless and so stupid. You know, that this kid is that dumb and exists in a world where he thinks that he's doing something cool by doing this. I do find it hard to not think of Jack as, again, like a symbol of something that has gone very wrong in sort of our modern culture. It's a world without adults in many ways. It's a world without any sort of adult supervision or adult authority present in their lives. It's depressing to me that these teenage kids saw Jack as their mentor. He was their leader. He was their role model. You know, this 21-year-old kid who doesn't know anything about anything.
I think JJ has the right basic principle. I agree with him, but it's not enough to have the right principle, generally speaking. You have to have the right principle applied to the appropriate degree, in the appropriate way, and in the appropriate situation. And so, while I broadly agree with JJ, I think he mingles and misprioritizes his principles, and then based upon this is not intellectually humble enough to genuinely consider the causes behind the phenomena he laments. This misdiagnosis leads him to a classic blunder, more common amongst radicals, but certainly not limited to them: the attribution of shallow motive replacing the expressed motive of the actor, where he indicts Jack for being too cynical or conspiratorial in attributing motive to the powerful within our military, political, and economic system. He goes right on to attribute ill motive to Jack. JJ is guilty of doing exactly what he accuses Jack of doing, with the only difference that JJ does so in the interest of the powerful. I personally don't think ill intent should be prescribed to any actor without great caution and without carefully eliminating all alternative explanations they offer. You don't have to have malicious intent to be wrong, even horribly wrong, but as power grows, confounding factors which serve to muddy the waters of true intent grow as well. So it is only reasonable to be more skeptical of the powerful. JJ does the opposite, being very trusting of the king while suspicious of the pawn.
If these kids had people in their lives that maybe took a little bit more interest in them, and as well, if the kids maybe had a little bit more interest in sort of seeking the wisdom of people that were a little bit more old and mature than they are, you know, maybe a situation like this wouldn't have happened. If these kids had people in their lives, older people that were more present in their conversations, you know, that were able to say things like, no, don't do that, or no, that's not in fact how the world works. You're ignorant. You need to like learn and educate yourself. And, you know, maybe I'll help you learn. I'll help you sort of figure out some of the actual facts about this world rather than just the kind of nonsense facts that you're learning from God knows where.
I agree. This would be good in theory. I think it has to come with more self-awareness than JJ has here, though, or else it will simply entrench people in their pre-existing habits of thought. Most responses will probably be more like this.
JJ, tell me right now, what is the difference between your generation rebelling from the baby boomers and smoking fucking pot and shit, drinking and skipping school? What's so different between us shit posting on the internet? What's the difference? If anything, I would argue that our generation just being terminally online, that's a lot more tamer than whatever fuck your generation was doing, being reckless in the real world. I think this video is just you grasping onto the reality that you are a much older person and you're no longer in the mainstream young people culture. And there's no problem with seeing yourself as, oh crap, there's a massive disconnect between me and the next generation. That's natural. Just don't wrap this revelation under a blanket of, oh my god, I'm so repulsed by the next generation. We gotta somehow stop this right now. Oh my god. Get off your high horse.
Epictetus said, "Show this illiterate man the truth, and you will see that he follows. But so long as you do not show him the truth, do not ridicule him, but rather feel your own incapacity. If you are failing, is it because the other is simply intransigent, or are you simply failing to look in the mirror?"
These online communities that are exclusively occupied by sort of young, ignorant men with crankish kind of conspiratorial beliefs, fostered by their own ignorance.
The fact that JJ imagines that youth and inexperience is the whole scope and limit of this problem, so unable to use the mirror of the young, weakens his efforts towards real solutions. Mutual understanding and persuasion is based, first and foremost, upon trust, what Aristotle called ethos. You must be somebody who is seen as credible, and really the only way to do this sustainably is to treat your interlocutor with enough respect to hear what they say and to understand why they feel how they feel. JJ seems pretty unwilling to even attempt that, which means he will never possess the ethos necessary for persuasion. Regardless, it's his own incapacity that pushes people further down the rabbit hole. It is the self-professed moderate who perpetuates the knot he complains he cannot untie.